Hello, my fellow weirdos. For today's video, you probably guessed from the thumbnail and the title, I'm doing a review of The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. And oh boy, did I love this book. So if you're unfamiliar with the premise, essentially it is a support group for final girls, as the title would suggest. We have women who went through traumatic experiences, people tried to kill them. The thing that these girls all have in common is that they had sequels, that the killer or somebody copycatting the killer tried to kill them a second time. And they have, for the past 30 years, been meeting in this little basement in a church to support each other, to help deal with the trauma of having had close friends and family be killed, having been injured themselves, having almost died themselves. And they get each other through the times. Our main character is Lynette, who is essentially the final girl from Black Christmas, that kind of thing. It's her one happened at Christmas, and a man dressed up as Santa Claus murdered her family and tried to kill her, but she survived. And then she had her sequel as well. I'm not going to go into details because I'm going to try to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. We have a member of the support group who is essentially the victim from Scream and Ghostface. We have one from a camp. It's Camp Red Lake in this, rather than Crystal Lake, who's the victim of a killer who killed all the camp people there. So that's Friday the 13th. We have one that is called the Dream King, the serial killer, and he is Freddy Krueger. And essentially, and we also have a Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre girl who survived a redneck family and who had an obsession with human skin. So yes, these women meet and they've all coped with their trauma in different ways. Some moved to the middle of nowhere. Some got very rich and hired a load of security. Some took to drugs and alcohol. One of them, by the name of Annette, she is the Friday the 13th kind of final girl. She set up, she actually bought the summer camp where the slaughter happened, and she set up a support group for women who are victims of violence, and she's the reason that all of them are together. So Lynette's coping strategy is basically complete paranoia and total alertness at all times. She lives alone. She has a bulletproof cage in her house, lots of guns. She goes, takes 2 hours to get to and from her house because she goes these funny routes. She only ever leaves for the support group and for groceries. She is hyper vigilant, and this is how she copes she's convinced that somebody's going to come after her again and that she needs to be ready for it. So she's got exit strategies. She's got, fake IDs, money. She's got all this sort of thing, these plans put in place. And that's her coping strategy. Anyway, the morning we sort of kick off with the final group. They're kind of arguing. Some of them are saying they want to leave. Then they find out that Annette, the one who set up the camp, the one who brought them all together, has been murdered. And there has also been a series of murders at her camp. So Lynette is convinced, right, this is it. They're coming for all of us, So she does her routes, gets home, and then she gets attacked, and another girl gets attacked, and someone else's house gets burned down. And it's very clear that a killer is targeting the final girls, the 80s final girls, for one last showdown. And nobody will believe Lynette. They are convinced that there's just a series of coincidences, like the house that burned down, for example, belonged to the girl who had taken drugs and things to cope, and they're saying, oh well, that's something that she would probably do. They're saying that her getting killed is and the Annette being murdered is an isolated incident. But that was one of the parts that kind of bothered me about the book, because clearly it's not a coincidence. I don't know why everybody refused to believe Lynette, maybe just because they didn't want to have to deal with that, but it's very clearly not a coincidence. All of them are clearly being targeted in some horrible way. But anyway, so Lynette has to take it upon herself to try to save the women, to try to find out who's hunting final girls and to stop them before they accomplish it and before more blood is shed. And there is a lot of bloodshed in this book. She's coping with her own trauma, with her own coping mechanisms to that trauma, which aren't overly healthy. She's having to deal with the fact that maybe she hasn't got it figured out as much as she thought she did in terms of who's good and who's bad, but also in terms of all these things that she established to keep people away. Maybe it's not as foolproof as she thought, you know. So she's kind of blundering her way through trying to keep everybody safe, while at the same time everybody thinks that she's nuts, essentially. I've noticed a theme with Grady Hendrix's books where he always I've read this one, I've read the My Best Friend's Exorcism, and I've read the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, and at the center of it there's always a woman who is telling everybody that there's like danger, that something's wrong, and asking for help, and nobody will believe her. And I kind of get it for the book club, because they were, you know, she was telling everybody there was a vampire, and everybody's like, yeah, okay, vampire. And My Best Friend's Exorcism, she's telling everyone that their friend's possessed by the devil, and it's like, okay, possession. But in this occasion, these women have literally had people trying to slaughter them on like 2 separate occasions each. And now, like, she's being shot at, somebody's been shot, this one's house been burned down, this one's been murdered, this one's been arrested, and it's like, dude, do you think these maybe are connected? So I kind of did get a little bit frustrated, because I was like, why will nobody listen to this woman? Okay, yes, she does have serious mental health issues, but it doesn't make her wrong, girl. It doesn't make her wrong. But the book is a fantastic concept. Like, it really, really is. It is so fast paced. There is loads of action from the very beginning to the very end, and it's spread out very well, so you're never in a particularly low lull. The characters are all great. They all have their individual personalities. They all have very clear adaptations to what has happened, and you understand why. He introduces each of their backstories, each of their murders, their serial killings, their sequels, as we go along throughout the book. And it makes, you know, you just gradually learn to understand each of the characters, not just Lynette, the main character, all of them. You understand why they are the way they are, why they reacted the way they reacted to what happened to them. You also have lots of twists and turns, obviously, because when you're dealing with a final girl situation, you know, anybody who's seen a classic slasher movie, you know there's always going to be twists and turns. There's going to be who's the killers, I don't know, could it be this person, could it be that person moments, fake outs, the moment you think the killer's dead but might be coming back, all those kind of wonderful stereotypes and tropes that you get from the serial killer movies are all in this book in like abundance, and it's so well done. I think that I have to say it was written in such a way that it isn't obvious what is going on and who's behind it. Again, I'm trying to keep this spoiler free, so I'm going to have to be very, very vague when I talk about this, because obviously I don't want to reveal who's doing it all. But I guessed part of it. I guessed how part of it would be revealed, but then there was part of it that I was like, wow, okay, and it kind of came out of left field for me. So, yeah, it is. It's gonna surprise you, which is hard to do, because we're dealing with, I mean, the whole point of this book is that we're dealing with a trope, okay? We're dealing with the final girl trope, one of the most famous killer tropes out there, famous horror movie tropes out there. So horror movie fans straight off the bat are going to know the formula. We're going to understand the pattern. We're going to understand the various clues being left, and we're going to guess like that what's happening. But somehow Grady manages to put all those little clues there, and all the tropes, but you still are left guessing, like, right up into the end what's going on, which I find like really, really entertaining, and also like what an achievement to actually get that. To be completely honest, I couldn't put it down. I read it cover to cover in a couple of days, and I loved every second of it. I honestly only have some like very, very slight and vague sort of negativity towards, as I said, the fact that nobody seemed to believe Lynette, and that did kind of get annoying at one point, because I was like, come on people, this is very clearly there's something going on here, will somebody believe her? But obviously that is necessary to set the plot, so that's a very, very minor little thing, and I just honestly I can't give it like enough praise. I have to give it 5 out of 5 straight off the bat. I loved it. I haven't disliked any of Grady Hendrix's books, to be honest. I'd say, though, this is by far my favourite of the 3 that I've read, with The Southern Book Club coming second and My Best Friend's Exorcism coming third. I just thought this was, I think because my favourite horror movie of all time is Scream, and because I'm a massive fan of slasher movies, of serial killer films, of the final girl trope and the various other horror movie slasher tropes, this just spoke to me on like a level that other books have never done before. So essentially, if you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of slasher films, if you like Scream and Friday the 13th and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but if you also just like a fast-paced action horror book, if you like good old-fashioned whodunit type murder situations, if you like your books dark but with a little smack of humor on there, then this is the book for you. 5 out of 5 all day long. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And I can't wait for Grady Hendrix's next book. I do need to read more of his sort of back catalogue. I have Horror Store there to read next. But yeah, loved it. So for my question today, guys, first of all, I want to know who your favourite final girl is. Put it down in the comments. Mine has to be Sydney because Scream is my favourite horror movie of all time. I freaking love that film. So I have to go for Sydney. But tell me who your favourite final girl is in the comments below. Also, if you've read the book, let me know what your thoughts on it were. If you want to read it, let me know, so we can kind of compare and contrast as you're reading along. And that's me for now, guys. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe because, guys, I am your final girl. So subscribe, comment, like, do all that wonderful jazz, and I'll be seeing you soon. Bye.